People will often ask me if moving to Mexico was difficult, if it was hard to settle in and adjust to life here. And while there were certainly challenges, on the whole, my transition to Mexico was a smooth one. I credit that with the fact that this was not my first time moving to another country. Even though they are completely different, my time living in Spain really helped me. It taught me some valuable lessons that I used while adjusting to life here in Mexico. If moving to Mexico will be your first time moving to another country, then you are going to want to pay special attention to this video because the advice, the tips that I share, the insights are going to be really valuable when you move here to help you adjust to life like a seasoned pro. For the best advice about moving to Mexico, subscribe to my channel and hit the bell to be notified when I upload a new episode every Thursday. Hi, I'm Alex, and I'm an American expat who's called Querétaro, Mexico home since 2017. Today's video is going to be a little different than my other episodes. It's going to be more casual, a little bit more chatty, but that doesn't mean the information that I'm sharing in today's video is going to be any less important. Before we dive into the 5 lessons, if you enjoy seeing videos about moving to Mexico, be sure to give this video a thumbs up. It really helps me in the YouTube algorithm, and the better I do in the algorithm, the more I can create content for you. Now, back in 2014, when I was scouring the internet for au pair jobs and trying to find a place in Europe where I could live with a family and learn another language, and lo and behold, I found an au pair gig in Spain. I lived with a family in a small village outside of Madrid. And while many people will tell you that immersion is the best way to learn a language, you really need a solid base before immersion can do you much good. So even though Spanish was being spoken around me all day and I was trying my best to keep up, I didn't have that solid base. So hearing the language around me wasn't enough to actually learn it. Within a few weeks, it became evident that I was going to need some formal education in Spanish. What I'd learned way back in high school was not cutting it, so I enrolled in language classes in Madrid. And with those basics that I was learning in my language classes, yes, grammar, coupled with the conversation practice that I was getting at home, I started to pick up the language then. But simply being around another language doesn't mean you're going to be able to pick it up. In the 5 years that I have lived abroad, I have felt like an idiot more times than I can count. And a lot of those instances have to do with language. Again, when I was living in Spain, my Spanish skills were very limited. And oh my gosh, I can't believe I am going to share this story with you, but it needs to be said. When I was living in Madrid and working as a language assistant, I was in a bilingual school in Madrid. And on our lunch break, one day I was chatting with one of the other teachers. She was actually the principal of our school. And we were chatting. Well, I wasn't really chatting. I was listening, desperately trying to keep up with the conversation. And she was telling me about her weekend. Now, she said something that I didn't quite understand, and instead of asking her to repeat herself like I definitely should have done, I just nodded my head, kind of gave a little laugh and said, "Que bien, that's nice." She gave me a weird look and kind of ended the conversation and walked away. So, okay, that's weird. And another teacher came up to me, asked if I knew what the principal had said to me, and it turns out she had told me that that past weekend her mother had died. And in response, I laughed and said, "That's nice." I think a lot of language learners will tell you that a situation like this is their worst nightmare. So, of course, I felt like a total idiot, super, super dumb. And the next day, I apologized to the principal, and she was so nice, so gracious about it, told me not to worry, that she understood that Spanish, is my second language, and that things like that, misunderstandings are going to happen. And that is true in most cases. In most of the cases, when you feel dumb while living in another country, people are so nice, so helpful, very understanding. And once you understand that these things are going to happen, these moments are going to occur, but you are going to get through them. You don't want the fear of these things happening to hold you back. There's sort of this shared fantasy among expats that they will move to their new country, start mingling with locals, and boom, all of a sudden have a fantastic social life. If only things were that easy. I really think that making friends in general as an adult is really difficult, but you can multiply that times 10 when you are living in another country. And it's so important, just like learning a language, that you make a concentrated effort with making friends and establishing a social life for yourself. You really need to put yourself out there. And even if you're sitting at home in your living room in your home country right now thinking, of course I'm going to put myself out there when I move abroad. Of course I'm going to join clubs and strike up conversations with strangers. It really takes a lot of mental work to get yourself in a place where you honestly feel comfortable doing those kinds of things. If you are moving abroad for work, then hopefully you will have colleagues that can introduce you to people. You can go out for drinks, and that's a great way to jumpstart your social life. But if you are still struggling to learn the language, or if, like me here in Mexico, you work from home, it can be really hard to meet new people. So, like I said, you really need to put yourself out there. You need to make an effort to find your people. In Madrid, and then again here in Querétaro, I have hosted women's book clubs. It has been such a great way to make friends, to meet like-minded women, and to have that social interaction each and every month. So if there is something that you like to do, start looking now for those groups. And if you can't find your interest represented in a club, then start your own. A great way to do that is using a website like Meetup. Over the years, I have heard a lot of people, it actually tends to be Americans, say that when they move to another country, they don't want any expat friends. They want to totally immerse themselves in the culture, and they want to be friends with only locals. But taking it back to the previous lesson, making friends is hard, and you should really take them wherever you can get them, whether that is friends who are locals or other expats. And when I'm saying have an expat group, have expat friends, I'm not necessarily just talking about people from your home country. Expats can be anyone that have moved to your new country from somewhere else in the world. And in my time living abroad, some of my best friends have been expats. And it's not because we're necessarily both from the same part of the world or because we both speak English. It's because we have a shared curiosity, a shared desire to see the world, to learn about ourselves, and that is a really strong basis for a friendship. Moving abroad has the power to change your life, but simply boarding a plane isn't going to transform you into a different person. You have to put in the work. Part of putting in the work is asking yourself questions like, why do I want to move abroad? What do I hope to get out of this experience? And answering those questions honestly. I have a whole blog post with questions that I think are essential for wannabe expats to ask themselves before moving to another country. I will link that blog post in the description below. When you answer those questions, you're going to get your why for wanting to move abroad. And that is so important to have, so important to hold on to, because it is going to get you through those hard days, those challenging times. Moving abroad can be an incredibly transformative experience. I honestly don't know who I would even be if I had not moved to Spain for the first time in 2014. And while moving abroad, moving to another country is an opportunity to reinvent yourself, that is not going to happen on its own. You have to put in the effort. Part of that work is leaving behind habits, leaving behind mindsets, leaving behind people that are extraneous, that are limiting, that are toxic to the person that you want to be. Sometimes that is hard. I know it is. Since I moved abroad for the first time, I have fallen out of touch or stopped being friends with people that I thought would be in my life forever. Growing apart is part of growing up. It is natural, and it's not something that you need to be afraid of. Even if you are someone preparing to retire who is getting ready to move abroad, you are still growing up and leaving behind those habits, those relationships. That is natural. You are starting something new, and if you want to be a different person, if you want to reinvent yourself, then you can do it, but you have to put in the work. Those are my 5 lessons for moving to another country, things I wish someone would have told me before I moved abroad for the first time. Now that you know them, now that you've got my advice, my insight, you have a solid foundation from which you can begin to prepare yourself mentally for this new adventure. Because really, that's what moving abroad is. It is an adventure. Your life in another country, even if it's something you've been dreaming about for years, it is not going to be all rainbows and butterflies. There are going to be ups and there are going to be downs. And in my experience, looking at it as an adventure helps you to embrace everything. If you have any questions about moving to another country or how to prepare for living abroad, be sure to leave those in the comments and I will definitely get back to them. I'm Alex from backpackingbrunette.com. Thanks for watching.